That song's giving me goosebumps every time I hear it.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'll have to get back to you. I think it's Francesca Batelli or Bastelli or something like that. I'll get with you after service, and because I have it on my Francesca Bastelli. I'll show you the name, because it's first time I heard it. That was one of those songs that, like, I was just looking for songs on the Holy Spirit, and it came right up, and I was like, oh. I sat back with my mouth hanging open. I was like, it's so powerful, you know. It's time to introduce our speaker. Reverend Carol Willis is our speaker today, and her sermon topic is on labor, being appropriate for Labor Day weekend. Reverend Carol is our treasurer. She's the assistant minister here. She comes with a wealth of knowledge on church dynamics and running a church, and from Unity, several years of study over there. I consider her a great friend and a great mentor. We have a lot of conversations about how to run a church, what we should be doing at the church. We're the same like mind, so we get along really well, and she's like a big sister to me. So please help me welcome Reverend Carol Willis to the platform.
I don't want to trip over that pen. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to Center of Enlightenment and the few stout and hearty that showed up today. Thank you for that. We all know that this is considered the Labor Day weekend, and I thought it might be interesting to look into the history of that. And it's not that I'm going to spend the whole time talking about that, but I learned some things here on how it came to be and when it came to be, Labor Day itself. Labor Day is a public holiday in the United States, always observed on the first Monday in September. Labor Day celebrates and honors the contribution of the American system of organized labor and workers to the prosperity and economic strength of the nation. The Monday of Labor Day, along with the Saturday and Sunday preceding it, is known as the Labor Day weekend and is traditionally considered the end of summer. As a federal holiday, all but essential national, state, and local government offices are typically closed on Labor Day. So just be aware, no banking on Monday, no mail on Monday. As a matter of fact, some places I called, they were even closed on Friday, so people could have a 4-day weekend. The first Labor Day celebration was held on Tuesday, September 5th, 1882 in New York City, while Oregon was the first state to actually adopt a Labor Day law on February 21st, 1887. The United States Congress declared Labor Day a federal holiday on June 28, 1894. Along with the day's historical significance, Americans tend to consider Labor Day as marking the unofficial end of summer. Many people wrap their vacations around Labor Day in anticipation of fall activities like the start of school and cool weather sports. The underlying meaning of Labor Day is different from that of any other yearly holiday. Quote, all other holidays are in a more or less degree connected with conflicts and battles of man's prowess over man, of strife and discord for greed and power, of glories achieved by one nation over another, said Samuel Gompers, founder of the American Federation of Labor. Quote, Labor Day is devoted to no man, living or dead, to no sect, race, or nation, end quote. The first Labor Day was celebrated on Tuesday, September 5th, 1882 in New York City, in accordance with the plans of the Central Labor Union. The Central Labor Union held its second Labor Day holiday just a year later on September 5th, 1883. By 1894, the legislatures of 23 more states had adopted the observance as a holiday, and President Grover Cleveland signed a law making the first Monday in September of each year a national holiday on June 28, 1894. As proposed by the Central Labor Union, the first Labor Day celebration was highlighted by a parade to show the public the strength and esprit de corps of the trade and labor organizations of the city. A festival for the recreation and amusement of the workers and their families followed the parade. This parade and festival arrangement became the pattern for the observance of Labor Day. And there's more information if you Google it, and that's what I did. You can find more information about Labor Day and how it came to be and so forth. But I got to thinking about it. Labor is a very interesting word. We use it as a noun, a verb, and an adjective. As a verb, labor describes the act to exert one's powers of body and mind, especially with painful or strenuous effort, as in work. We can all identify with that. Number 2, to be in the labor of giving birth. I've never experienced that, but I've heard many stories about how painful it is, but once you hold the baby, all that pain goes away. It's the most wonderful experience in the world. And number 3, to suffer from some disadvantage or distress. Sometimes labor as an adjective is used to describe a positive labor, such as a labor of love. Yes, it takes a lot of hard work. However, it gives us a big reward. When I was involved with Arise Spiritual Retreat and Wellness Center, we used to do an annual event called Mystic Gathering. And it was a one-day event for vendors, holistic practitioners, mediums, and others to share their business with the public. And we have some folks here that got connected with some holistic practitioners, and they're still accepting their treatment, and it's a wonderful thing. Mystic Gathering took almost a year to plan, and many hours of work. One year I took that on and coordinated it. And at the end of the day, I had to go home and go to bed. I was exhausted. But I'll tell you, when I looked back on it, I was so happy. I thought, this was such a success. And it was when other people coordinated it. It was just fun. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. When many of us think about labor, we think about working hard, being in a stressful environment, encountering difficult people and situations, solving problems, attending meeting after meeting. Well, you get my drift. It's like, oh gosh, another day, another 50 cents is what we used to say. It can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be difficult. Sometimes we labor over our own challenges, looking for an answer or a resolution or guidance to know what to do. In the book, The Road Less Traveled, the author writes the first sentence, and it reads, "Life is difficult." I can't disagree with that. Life is difficult. Some days a little less difficult, some days actually rather easy. But overall, his thought was life is difficult. And I'd say to that, like, no kidding. No kidding. Almost every day, someone asks me for prayer support. And we know that life is constantly changing, which is why our COE theme is change can only grow and strengthen me. Change can only grow and strengthen me. We know what the other side of that coin looks like. Change can really beat me down and weaken me, but we're trying to positively spin that and say it can only grow and strengthen us. Many years ago, we used to see the letters WWJW on t-shirts, coffee mugs, keychains, and all kinds of other swag. And those letters stand for what would Jesus do? In the Bible, in Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30, Jesus gives us a formula on what to do. He says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." And you think, well, yeah, of course, that's true for Jesus. What about me? And he's telling us, this is for you as well, and I will help you. Okay. So what does this mean for us today? And when I thought about it, as I was finishing this talk this morning, I decided it's time to release our attachment to the problems or the burdens and turn our attention to the Christ presence within us, and we can rest and let go. As the song says, let it be. Let it be. Are we going to make a difference by wrestling with it, by worrying about it, by gossiping about it, by just having overall angst about it, having sleepless nights over it? That's not benefiting us or the situation one bit. The Bible says that worrying doesn't add 1 cubit to our stature. It doesn't help us at all. When we are no longer focused on the problem, we have surrendered to the Christ presence in order to receive guidance and instruction. When we reach a state of humility, we will receive the illumination that we seek. And this is important. When we are humble and surrendered to Spirit, we are teachable. When we are willful, we are not teachable. When we are meek and humble and loving and kind and open to Spirit, Spirit can show us and teach us, just as Reverend Keith shared with us this morning. When he put the car idea up to Spirit, he was guided to the right place, to the right car, for the right price. In an hour and 15 minutes, it was a done deal. That fast. So it makes us think, are we teachable and willing, or are we willful and resistant? Would we rather keep the problem, or do we want to have a resolution? Do we want to be in pain, or do we want to be free? It pretty much boils down to that much of a simplistic equation. Pain or be free. Squirrel chase or be calm. Okay, so when we reach a state of humility, we will receive the illumination we seek. And while we wait, we rest in the Christ presence calmly and peacefully. And that doesn't mean that once you surrender it, that you pull it back to take a look to see how it's doing. That's like putting a seed in the ground and then digging it up to see if it's sprouted yet. At that point, you're disturbing the growth pattern. You'll probably kill the seed. It's best to leave it alone and do your part, which is water it and feed it and weed it and let it do its thing in the ground where it's supposed to be. Let it be and leave it alone. The divine presence in its fullness is right where we are. And I think this is important for us to remember. Right where we are is all that God is. Even in the midst of whatever we're dealing with. The whole presence, power, activity, intelligence, love, all goodness of God is right where we are, all the time. We're not separate from God. Never, never, ever. The answer already has been created, and we must become quiet enough to receive it. And this is also something important to remember. The good that you desire already has been created by God. It's our job to align ourselves with Spirit so that can be revealed to us. Like Reverend Keith said, when I opened it to Spirit, I was guided to go here. I was guided to do this. And that's how it works out. Going over and over the problem in mind and emotion will never solve the problem. We have to let it go and let God be in charge. A friend of mine recently told me about a presentation she heard on YouTube by Rabbi Karen Kadar. The rabbi told a story about a dream that she had had. She was in a shop looking at bolts of beautiful fabric, and she was feeling it, and she heard a voice say, "When the people learn to sew, we can save the world." And she woke up and thought, I don't even sew. What does that mean? I don't even sew. And so she spent a lot of time in prayer and contemplation, trying to interpret this dream. And this is what she came up with. Our left hand is a piece of fabric that we call God. There are certain things that are God's business, and we should just turn it over to God. It's not our business. It's not ours to solve. The right hand is a piece of fabric that represents life. And we're involved in life. We can work to change. We live life every day. But the idea of sewing was, if these two are joined together, if you know anything about sewing, when you join together, you have a seam. And we live on the seam. We can either give it to God or be involved in life. So we're always moving one way or another. And so when we live on the seam, and we live on the seam every day, we choose which side of the seam gets our attention. When life happens, we choose whether it's our business to handle or God's. If it's God's business, we release it to God. We let it go. If it's our business, we deal with it, heal it, resolve it, and move on. The goal is to have the life experience be easier and the burden of it be light. Many people have said this earth existence is like a schoolroom. Every day, every experience is like a lesson. Okay? So we either do well on the test or we don't. And if we don't, then we need to study. Because really, the answers are within us, because divine presence is within us. When we surrender to the Christ within in humility and devotion, we will be shown the way to wholeness, abundance, divine order, and peace. So when we think about labor, let's think about it in a way that's not burdensome. It doesn't have to be. Even in the worst situations, we can change how we think and feel about what's happening around us and to us. We have the ability to be masters. We have the ability to have authority and dominion. We don't realize how powerful of a being that we truly are. But we need to remember, we don't walk alone. Right where we are, God is, every moment of every day. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your holiday, and God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Carol.